Hello. And welcome to our 15th annual Poetry Life Festival and our 15th favorite poem reading. And I'm so glad you are all here. My name is Georgia Court. Most of you may know me better as the proprietor of Bookstore One, but thank you. But I love Florida Studio Theater and have done many projects with them, and they've been such a huge help with Poetry Life, and they have often been such a big help with this event. I also want to thank our donors. You'll see their names on your program, and I don't want to list them here, but they have been such a big help, and it really makes it possible for us to do programs like this. Some of you may already know what the favorite poem is all about and how that started. But for those of you who don't, it was the brainchild of Robert Pinsky when he was Poet Laureate, U.S. Poet Laureate, from 1997 to 2000. And when a person is a U.S. Poet Laureate, he or she is expected to come up with a program. Many of them do things in schools. Billy Collins had books written where the poem could be read every day in a school, for example. But Robert Pinsky had an interesting idea. His idea was that everybody, and he meant everybody, has a poem they love. They may not know it, but they do. So what he did was to stop people on the street and ask them and say, well, what's your favorite poem? And people would look at him like, what are you talking about? I don't do poetry. And then they'd stand there for about 30 seconds and they say, oh yeah, when I was a kid, my teacher used to read this poem and oh, I loved it and I still remember it. Or my girlfriend used to read me this poem. When we first met, she read that to me every day. So people remembered that they had favorite poems. And as a result of that, he started putting together programs just like this one, where community members come together and read their favorite poems to each other. And in fact, in 2012, Robert Pinsky himself came here to this very stage and did our first favorite poem reading in Sarasota. So that's the background of Poetry Life. So what's going to happen tonight is you are going to see 16 members of the community, people many of you know, your neighbors, your friends, who are going to read their favorite poem, and they're going to tell you why it's their favorite poem. And if you look at the inside of your program, you will see the list and the order of people. So if you don't quite catch their names or catch the name of the poem, it's there for you. So take a look at that. And with that, I'm going to introduce our very first reader to kick us off, and it happens to be Kate Alexander.
When I was about in my early 20s, I came across this poem. I was in a hospital, very confusing time, and kind of lost. And all of a sudden the poem said to me, nothing matters. This is all that matters, this poem. Throughout my life, it stayed with me, through no push of my own. Through marriages, through loss of a parent, through good times, through confusing or uncertain times like now. When in doubt, I listen to it, and it tells me beyond religion or philosophy or any rational thought what I should do. It's my litmus. By Christopher Fry. I am interested in my feelings. If not, then sad was my mother's pain. Sad is my breath, sad the articulation of my bones, and woefully, woefully sad my wandering brain. To be shaped and sharpened into such tendrils of anticipation just to feed this swamp of space. What is deep? As love is deep, I will have deeply. And what is good? As love is good, I will have that as well. And then if time and space have any purpose, I shall belong to it. And if not, if this life is all just pretty fiction to distract the cherubim and seraphim who so continually do cry, then the very least I can do is fill this curled shell of a world with human, deep sea sounds and hold them up into the ear of God so he may taste our salt sorrow upon his lips. I am only interested in my feelings. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Hannah. I first heard this poem on a podcast with an actor talking about using it as inspiration for a particularly moving performance. But it quickly moved beyond that performance and beyond that actor for me. I printed it out and I stuck it to a doorway in my home so that I could always have it there at eye level. It's a particularly apt description of grief and loss or hardship. But in addition to how accurate that feels, it's also placing those things in a context of an ongoing journey. It's not an end of anything. You're allowed to look back, but the journey keeps going. And there's an optimism to that I really appreciate. I'm not good at optimism myself, so I like having this poem around to help move me in that direction too. This is The Layers by Stanley Kunitz. I have walked through many lives, some of them my own, and I am not who I was, though some principle of being abides, from which I struggle not to stray. When I look behind, as I am compelled to look before I can gather strength to proceed on my journey, I see the milestones dwindling toward the horizon and the slow fires trailing from the abandoned campsites over which scavenger angels wheel on heavy wings. Oh, I have made myself a tribe out of my true affections, and my tribe is scattered. How shall the heart be reconciled to its feast of losses? In a rising wind, the manic dust of my friends, those who fell along the way, bitterly stings my face. Yet I turn exulting somewhat, with my will intact to go wherever I need to go, and every stone on the road precious to me. In my darkest night, when the moon was covered and I roamed through wreckage, a nimbus-clouded voice directed me. Live in the layers, not on the litter. Though I lack the art to decipher it, no doubt the next chapter in my book of transformations is already written. I am not done with my changes. Thank you.
Sea Fever by John Masefield is my father's favorite poem. I did not know him to read poetry, but he was a sailor and he loved this poem so much that he carried a handwritten copy of it in his wallet, discovered there at the time of his sudden death at the age of 61 in 1977. My mom, who was not a talented needle worker, toiled one entire summer converting the words of Sea Fever onto a canvas as a gift to my father. It was framed and it hung over the fireplace of our summer home in Beach Haven, New Jersey for almost 40 years. At the time of my mom's death in 2003, I was the recipient, and it was stored in the attic for many years until a wonderfully talented friend transformed it into a pillow. A shout out to my friend Betty. So I have lived with this poem almost my entire life. The only time I have recited it was in a kayak, depositing a friend's ashes into the waters surrounding Key West. Somehow it was a very fitting tribute, very well received by her husband and friends, as I hope it will be this evening. Sea Fever by John Masefield. I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and the sky. And all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. And the wheels kick and the wind's song and the white sails shaking. And a gray mist on the sea's face and a gray dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying and the flung spray and the blown spume and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and quiet sleep and a sweet dream when the long trick's over. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mitchell.
Hey, Mitchell.
Hey, brother. I chose this poem because it is very important for me today in the world in which we live, fraught as it is with division and violence and injustice. The list goes on. It's important for me, and I think for all of us, to find refuge, to find those places where we can be returned to an inner peace, return to some joy, return to our connections with each other, with nature. And so this poem speaks to me very powerfully of that refuge. It's called The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I come into the grace of the world and am free. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Taylor Anderson. I've loved Sylvia Plath since I was in high school, since I was first introduced to Sylvia in high school. There was something about her rawness, her unapologetic way of expressing personal experiences, which, moving on, was coined confessional poetry. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was permitted to talk about mental health. It's always stigmatized and it's always misunderstood. And so I look to Sylvia as sort of an inspiration, if you will. And if you're familiar with Sylvia, you know that might be a bit strange to think of her as an inspiration. But she was nothing but honest, and that's why I love her so much. Lady Lazarus, on its face, it's dark, it's eerie, it's heavy with themes of depression and other mental health disorders. She also almost views death as an art form, but it's real, it's relevant, and especially in today's world, because again, mental health is sort of a taboo subject that a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about. It represents a sort of spiritual transformation, and that personally resonates with me. This will forever be my favorite poem. Whoa, I'm getting emotional. This is Lady Lazarus, Sylvia Plath. I have done it again. 1 year in every 10, I manage it. A sort of walking miracle. My skin bright as a Nazi lampshade, my right foot a paperweight, my face a featureless, fine Jew linen. Peel off the napkin, oh my enemy, do I terrify? The nose, the eye pits, the full set of teeth, the sour breath will vanish in a day. Soon in the flesh, the grave cave 8 will be at home on me, and I, a smiling woman. I am only 30, and like the cat, I have 9 times to die. This is number 3. What a trash to annihilate each decade. What a million filaments. The peanut crunching crowd shoves in to see them unwrap me hand and foot, the big striptease. Gentlemen, ladies, these are my hands, my knees. I may be skin and bone, nevertheless, I am the same identical woman. The first time it happened, I was 10. It was an accident. The second time, I meant to last it out and not come back at all. I rocked shut as a seashell. They had to call and pick the worms off me like sticky pearls. Dying is an art, like everything else. I do it exceptionally well. I do it so it feels like hell. I do it so it feels real. I guess you could say I have a call. It's easy enough to do it in a cell. It's easy enough to do it and stay put. It's the theatrical comeback in broad day to the same place, the same face, the same brute, amused shout, a miracle that knocks me out. There is a charge for the eyeing of my scars. There is a charge for the hearing of my heart. It really goes. And there is a charge, a very large charge for a word or a touch or a bit of blood or a piece of my hair or my clothes. So, hair doctor. So, hair enemy. I am your opus. I am your valuable, the pure gold baby that melts to a shriek. I turn and burn. Do not think I underestimate your great concern. Ash, ash, you poke and stir. Flesh, bone, there is nothing there. A cake of soap, a wedding ring, a gold filling. Hair God, hair Lucifer, beware, beware. Out of the ash I rise with my red hair, and I eat men like air. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tricia Bauer. I've admired Tony Hoagland's poems for a long time. What he could do was to find both poignancy and humor in the most mundane of places. The things in this poem, personal, that bump up against each other, it's just so impressive and funny and great. And I think what this poem allows us to do is to reject the cliched advice that is passed down through us through our entire life, and to forge our own way. It's often the path of the artist or the inventor or the entrepreneur, or what I like to think of as good troublemakers. Personal by Tony Hoagland. Don't take it personal, they said, but I did. I took it all quite personal. The breeze and the river and the color in the fields, the price of grapefruit and stamps, the wet hair of women in the rain. And I cursed what hurt me, and I praised what gave me joy, the most simple-minded of possible responses. The government reminded me of my father with its deafness and its laws. And the weather reminded me of my mom with her tropical squalls. Enjoy it while you can, they said of happiness. Think first, they said of talk. Get over it, they said at the School of Broken Hearts. But I couldn't, and I didn't, and I don't believe in the clean break. I believe in the compound fracture served with a sauce of dirty regret. I believe in saying it all and taking it all back and saying it again for good measure while the air fills up with I'm sorries like wheeling birds and the trees look seasick in the wind. Oh, life, can you blame me for making a scene? You were that yellow caboose, the moon disappearing over a ridge of cloud. I was the dog chained in some fool's backyard, barking and barking to try to convince everything else to take it personal too. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carolina. I did choose this poem because it beautifully highlights our shared humanity, our shared commonalities that I really think we often overlook or forget about. I think in today's world, this really resonates with me. I actually, thinking about what's my favorite poem, this is my favorite poem now, because that's totally how I feel. So I told someone earlier, I think that evolves with the experiences that you're having. At least that's my case. So I really believe in humanity. I really think good things, we can do good things together, and certain answers are closer than we may think if we join forces. Okay. We Are of a Tribe by Alberto Rios. We plant seeds in the ground and dreams in the sky, hoping that someday the roots of one will meet the upstretched limbs of the other. It has not happened yet. We share the sky, all of us, the whole world. Together, we are a tribe of eyes that look upward, even as we stand on uncertain ground. The earth beneath us moves, quiet and wild, its boundaries shifting, its muscles wavering. The dream of sky is indifferent to all this, impervious to borders, fences, reservations. The sky is our common home, the place we all live. There we are in the world together. The dream of sky requires no passport. Blue will not be fenced. Blue will not be a crime. Look up, stay a while. Let your breathing slow. Know that you always have a home here. Thank you. Gracias.
Howdy, I'm Caitlin. I've loved this poem for almost 20 years, and each time I read it, I have the same flutter as I did the first time I came across it in college. It is a tantalizing tease, a flirtation of the idea of the thing versus the thing itself. It's a poem I usually keep to myself as it's a point of vulnerability, so why not read it with all of you guys? What if they don't like it? What if they don't get it? I've seen a lot of other readers miss the mark on this poem and get caught up in the wordplay, which is wonderful, don't get me wrong, or the use of the sounds in the poem, or focus on how she brings a plum to life. Not for me, that's not what it is for me. The vulnerability is deeper, revealing a woman who desires, who hungers. I'm emboldened to share it and offer it up here, as I did recently dare to share it with someone new, and not only was I, seen by them, but they repaid my risk by reading it back to me in perfect, savoring understanding. The Word Plum by Helen Chasen. The word plum is delicious. Pout and push, luxury of self-love, and savoring murmur, full in the mouth and falling like fruit. Taut skin, pierced, bitten, provoked into juice, and tart flesh. Question and reply, lip and tongue of pleasure. Thanks.
Good evening, my name's John Alexander. The poem I've chosen is a poem, Annabel Lee, by Edgar Allan Poe. We've all read that in high school somewhere. But as I read this over and over again, it's not just a love note for some girlfriend. It's a lesson of how deep love can go. And more, it's a lesson of how love can survive almost anything. It dawned on me that love is the glue that holds everything together. Whether it's love of a family, love of your kids, love of your pet dog, love of anything else. It's the love that holds everything together. And I think Poe pretty much hit it on right on the head, because I think you'll like the poem. It's called Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child, and she was a child in that kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabelle Lee. With a love that winged seraphs in heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabelle Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in that kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabelle Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. And the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. And so all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life, and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jack Massa, and the poem I'm going to read tonight is by Sarah Teasdale. It's called August Moonrise. And Teasdale was an American poet who published in the early part of the 20th century. She won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry in 1918. And I especially love this poem because not only is it beautifully written, but it embodies beauty as a spirit, as a kind of goddess, if you will. And the poet expresses how devotion to this spirit can make life, with all of its inevitable sorrows and troubles, worth living. August Moonrise. The sun was gone and the moon was coming over the blue Connecticut hills. The west was rosy, the east was flushed, and over my head the swallows rushed, this way and that, with changeful wills. I heard them twitter and watched them dart, now together and now apart, like dark petals blown from a tree. The maples, stamped against the west, were black and stately and full of rest. And the hazy orange moon grew up and slowly changed to yellow gold, while the hills were darkened, fold on fold, to a deeper blue than a flower could hold. Down the hill I went, and then I forgot the ways of men, for night scents, heady and damp and cool, wakened ecstasy in me on the brink of a shining pool. O beauty, out of many a cup, you have made me drunk and wild, ever since I was a child. But when have I been sure as now, that no bitterness can bend, and no sorrow wholly bow one who loves you to the end? And though I must give my breath and my laughter all to death, and my eyes through which joy came, and my heart a wavering flame, if all must leave me and go back along a blind and fearful track, so that you can make anew, fusing with intenser fire, something nearer your desire. If my soul must go alone through a cold infinity, or even if it vanish too. Beauty, I have worshipped you. Let this single hour atone for the theft of all of me. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tariko Epps, and I selected this poem. It was introduced to me, or to our class, in the 5th grade by Miss Edna P. Johnson. That was my teacher's name. And that was only about, 20 years ago. And this poem has stayed with me. And when she introduced it, as she did for other works like Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream, she gave us each lines. And so some of the lines, the ones that were mine, kind of stayed with me. So over the years, even though I don't think I know in the 5th grade, I didn't know really what the poem represented, but I enjoyed the ending, the last line. And as I've grown up and read the poems, and I've read the poem over the years, I realized even though it's a father to a son, it's really for us as a people talking about maturity. And so I've kind of lived these principles, and I wonder if that was the seed she planted in the 5th grade in her wisdom. So the poem I've selected is called If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good or talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose, and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve you your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiven minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Good evening, friends. I'm Bubba Henson. 167 years ago, literature was changed forever in this country. That was when Walt Whitman published Leaves of Grass, 1855. And I don't know that he was prepared, although his ego was ready for it, I don't know that he was prepared for the amount of notoriety that it would give him. He continued to refine it and put out different versions of it. But That was the public vault. That was the public vault, and I want to introduce you to the personal vault. This is called When I Heard at the Close of the Day. When I heard at the close of the day how my name had been received with plaudits in the Capitol, still, it was not a happy night for me that followed. And else, when I caroused or when my plans were accomplished, still, I was not happy. But the day when I rose at dawn from the bed of perfect health, refreshed, singing, inhaling the ripe breath of autumn, when I saw the full moon in the west grow pale and disappear in the morning light, when I wandered alone over the beach and undressing bathed, laughing with the cool waters and saw the sunrise, and when I thought how my dear friend, my lover, was on his way coming, oh, then I was happy. Oh, then each breath tasted sweeter, and all that day my food nourished me more, and the beautiful day passed well. And the next came with equal joy, and with the next at evening came my friend. And that night, while all was still, I heard the waters roll slowly, continually up the shores. I heard the hissing rustle of the liquid in sands as directed to me, whispering to congratulate me, for the one I loved most lay sleeping by me, under the same cover, in the cool night, in the stillness, in the autumn moonbeams. His face was inclined toward me, and his arm lay lightly around my breast. And then I was happy. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Ann Moore. Has a poet or a writer ever written something that really challenged what you believed in or what you thought? Sometimes those are the kinds of questions that make you stop in your tracks and you think, what? Did I not know that? Did I not imagine that? Well, in The Night House by Billy Collins, he asks some questions or makes some assumptions. Let's see if you think that he's right. The Night House by Billy Collins. Every day the body works in the fields of the world, mending a stone wall or swinging a sickle through the tall grass, the grass of civics, the grass of money, and every night the body curls around itself and listens for the soft bells of sleep. But the heart is restless and rises from the body in the middle of the night, leaves the trapezoidal bedroom with its thick, pictureless walls, to sit by herself at the kitchen table and heat some milk in a pan. And the mind gets up too, puts on a robe and goes downstairs, lights a cigarette, and opens a book on engineering. Even the conscience awakens and roams from room to room in the dark, darting away from every mirror like a strange fish. And the soul is up on the roof in her nightdress, straddling the ridge, singing a song about the wildness of the sea until that first rip of pink appears in the sky. They will all return to the sleeping body the way a flock of birds settles back into a tree, resuming their daily colloquy, talking to each other or themselves, even through the heat of the long afternoons, which is why the body, that house of voices, sometimes puts down its metal tongs, its needle or its pen, to stare into the distance, to listen to all its names being called before bending again to its labor. Thank you.
I'm Patricia Caswell, and I am going to read a poem by Georgia Court. She wrote it about 6 years ago, and I was present at this place where she wrote it, observing the same things that she observed. I remembered a loud trumpet and several things about a performance. And what the poet remembered were the small things. And when I just recently pulled it out of a bunch of papers, I read it, and I felt everything that the poet felt on that day, and I remembered it. And it was so beautiful to re-experience it. So here it is. The name of the poem is Kiki Petrosino Wrote a Poem. I see it today on my iPad in a message from the Academy. And remember an evening before we were maddened by virus, before national agoraphobia. My Florida living room crowded with poetry lovers, sipping wine, friends hugging, kissing cheeks. And when Kiki stood up to read, we squeezed into couches and listened close up while she said her poems, some written fresh in a place of sun and sea and light. And we loved being together, with her, with us, free to breathe the air of each other's company.
Good evening. Good evening. There you go. My name is Tanya Young, and I have a poem tonight by James Wright called A Blessing. And this poem is really about a quiet, single moment of ordinary grace. And I really feel that the gentleness of this poem is its power. A Blessing, James Wright. Just off the highway to Rochester, Minnesota, twilight bounds softly forth on the grass, and the eyes of two Indian ponies darken with kindness. They have come gladly out of the willows to welcome my friend and me. We step over the barbed wire into the pasture where they have been grazing all day alone. They ripple tensely. They can hardly contain their happiness that we have come. They bow shyly as wet swans. They love each other. There is no loneliness like theirs. At home once more, they begin munching the young turfs of spring in the darkness. I would like to hold the slenderer one in my arms, for she has walked over to me and nuzzled my left hand. She is black and white. Her mane falls wild on her forehead, and the light breeze moves me to caress her long ear that is delicate as the skin over a girl's wrist. Suddenly, I realize that if I stepped out of my body, I would break into blossom. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joanna Fox. My favorite poem is Always Changing. depending on what's going on, where I am, even who I am with. But there's always a favorite of some sort. And, when construction begins on a piece of commercial property these days, people wonder, what will it be? And of course, you know the answer, either a car wash or a storage center. And I drove down 8 miles of US 41, and in that 8 miles was 11 storage centers. I don't know how many units were in all those centers, but I do know that they were probably filled with an overabundance of stuff. Stuff that people couldn't live with in their houses, but couldn't live without. So each month, they signed the check to store it. And I was taken aback when I was reading through one of my favorite books of poetry by Mary Oliver to find that she, who writes so beautifully of nature in a simple elegance, had written a poem titled Storage by Mary Oliver. When I moved from one house to another, there are many things I had no room for. What does one do? I rented a storage space and filled it. Years passed. Occasionally I went there and looked in, but nothing happened. Not a single twinge of the heart. And as I grew older, the things I cared about grew fewer, but were more important. So one day, I undid the lock and called the trash man. He took everything away. I felt like the little donkey when his burden is finally lifted. Things, burn them, make a beautiful fire, more room in your heart for love, for the trees, for the birds who own nothing, the reason they can fly. Thank you.
I have to say, let's give all of these readers another round of applause. Terrific set of poems, terrific readings. Thank you. Thank you all. And to the readers, I'm going to talk about what's coming next, but I want to ask you to remember to stay behind because we're going to take a group photo afterwards, so we'll take it up on stage. But this is the beginning of Poetry Life this year. This is not the end of Poetry Life. There are several more events that will be happening that I want to let you know before you all leave us tonight. The next one is this coming Saturday, the 21st, and that's actually going to be an intensive poetry workshop with Rick Hillis, who is a professor of poetry at Vanderbilt University. And intensive, don't let that scare you, because what he's going to be talking about is how to craft a poem. So it's intended for people of all levels, and you can, all of these things I'm going to tell you about, you can sign up through sarasotobooks.com. So /events is the easiest way to find that. So that's happening Saturday afternoon from 1 to 4. Then Sunday at noon, Professor Hillis is bringing 5 of his Vanderbilt MFA students, and you'll see on the program that Vanderbilt is actually a sponsor because they're paying to send these students down here, and they are going to be doing a reading at bookstore number 1 at noon. So come and enjoy their poetry. Then on Monday, that's when our featured poets arrive. Well, they will be presenting their work. And the featured poets this year are Amy Neshuku Matadahil and Ross Gay. And on Monday morning at 11 a.m., at Bookstore 1. They're going to be in conversation about their prose writing, because both of them are excellent prose writers as well as poets. So they're going to be talking about that process, and they collaborate on things, so they're collaborative process. And then that evening at 7 o'clock at Florida Studio Theater, at the Court Cabaret this time, they are going to be in conversation actually with Kate Alexander about their poetry. And not only will they be in discussion with Kate, but this will be open to the audience, so you can discuss and talk with them about their poetry and the poetry process. So you sign up for any or all of those things at sarasotobooks.com/events. That's where you'll find it. And we hope to see many of you there. And I would ask for even one more round of applause because these readers were so fabulous. And thank you for coming.